Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to our Ordinary Council meeting for October. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we meet today and throughout the Southern Downs region and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Today we have Pastor Dave here to lead our prayer.
Mayors, councillors, so thank you for giving me this opportunity and good morning. Welcome to Stanthorpe for those who have travelled. Last Thursday, my 52-year-old cousin passed away of a massive heart attack and I'm taking the funeral on Friday. These times make me evaluate what's important in life, how important the things are that we do, what are the things that are of value. One of the things that he valued was sport. He loved his sport. And something that I learned very early on about sport is the word synergy. Synergy is when we come together to be able to do great things together. It's not what we can do individually in the same space, but it's how we do things together. This means that no matter how good a group of individuals are, the team that works as one will almost always win. It's not just acknowledging each other or even being nice to each other, it's about working for each other. Philippians 2 in the Bible says, "Then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of mind." As a pastor, my role is reviewed by the membership of the church every few years, and my position is voted on. In a way, it sometimes makes me feel that I'm dictated to by popularity and I need to keep everyone happy to stay in my role. But I've come to understand it differently. My role is to speak up for, empower, and encourage those who are a part of the church to be the very best that we can be together. My role is to help us all to become one so that we can achieve a synergy. And again in the Bible in Romans 12 it says, "For just as each of us is one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all of the others." As we grow together and work with and for each other, as we identify that we are on the same team, we can achieve great things together. As we become stronger, others join with us and we continue to grow in strength. Could we pray, please? Father God, we acknowledge that you are God, that you are the creator, sustainer of all life. You are the one who has all authority and all power. And Father, we thank you that you are present in this time and in this place. We come to do our roles, to serve you in different ways, to serve the community in different ways. But we come before you and ask that you give us wisdom, understanding and knowledge. Give us the capacity to be able to make wise decisions and to be able to build our region stronger and stronger every day. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Dave, and condolences to you and your family for your loss. It's very nice of you to speak to us at this time.
It's a pleasure.
Moving on to condolences, I'd like to lead condolences today with condolences to the family of Bob Hart on behalf of both council and the community. Bob Hart's life was one of service, dedication and quiet achievement. He was a proud veteran of World War II and served aboard HMAS Shropshire. Bob's contribution to his nation was matched only by his commitment to his local community in the years that followed. Together with his brother Frank, Bob helped establish John Dee, a cornerstone of Warwick's economy and one of the region's most successful employers for decades. His vision and leadership not only created jobs, but helped build a sense of stability and pride in our community. We also recognise the esteem in which Bob was held by his fellow veterans and by the Warwick RSL sub-branch, who are also honouring his life and legacy through his service and remembrance. His century of life leaves a remarkable legacy of contribution, resilience and community spirit. The Southern Downs community will join the family in celebrating a life well lived on Saturday in Warwick and in mourning the loss of a truly respected citizen. Do we have any more condolences today, councillors? Yes, Councillor Bartley.
Yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Be remiss not to mention Dawn Scrimminger. She passed away just before our last ordinary meeting. It was a bit raw to mention her then, but she's certainly been an iconic figure in our community. She was a staunch member of the LNP and helped many of our past local members and current local members achieve office. She was very highly regarded. She was a very devoted family person. She certainly supported her children in a lot of ways that other parents could never imagine. And we will certainly miss her reflections around the community. She came from a well-known family and certainly had a lot of input into the community, and she'll be sadly missed.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Councillors, any other condolences today? No, okay. Moving on to attendance and apologies. We have Councillor Cynthia McDonald has requested leave from this ordinary council meeting. Councillor McDonald has advised us of the accident that she had last week while doing some home renovations, and unfortunately she has sustained some injuries and will need some surgeries to correct those. So we're not sure of the extent of Councillor McDonald's absence until her medical schedule is finalised. As such, I'm going to move that we grant Councillor Cynthia McDonald leave of absence for the ordinary council meeting today and on Wednesday, 19 November 2025. Are you seconding that, Councillor Richards? Thank you very much. That won't preclude Councillor McDonald from joining us in November if she's able to, but it will simply mean that should her schedule require, she already has a leave of absence. Are we okay to go to a vote on that? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to the reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 17 September 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you. A seconder? Councillor Bartley, thank you. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And moving on to actions from council meetings, we have a recommendation that council receive the report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Pigeon. Are we okay to go to a vote on that? Yep, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do we have any today? Councillor Windle? Okay. Any other conflicts of interest today, councillors? No, okay. Councillor Windle then on 15.3.
15.3, it'll be a declarable conflict of interest and I'll be leaving the room.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Okay. We don't have any mayoral minutes today and we don't have any notices of motion. Moving on to the reading and consideration of correspondence, we have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Haslett, thank you. Do we want to go to a vote on that?
Mayor, I think it might be just worthwhile pointing out that Julian actually has an N at the end of his name. And although I don't think he'll be upset about being called Julia, I'm sure we probably should fix it for the minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We don't have any petitions or joint letters. Moving on to portfolio reports. I have a portfolio report this month and there's a recommendation that Council's Prosperous Communities portfolio report be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Pigeon, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Dean, thank you. I'll take my report as read. It covers a number of ministerial and assistant ministerial visits that we have had to the region recently. It's good to see a number of councillors being engaged in those visits. Many of us actually have been involved with those visits around this table, and I'd also like to particularly thank our state representative, James Lister MP, for organising a number of those, and also say how impressed I have been by the number of ministers and assistant ministers that we have been seeing in the region. I think it's a really great sign that the state government is actually getting out to the regions and seeing some of the challenges that we have. If everyone's okay, Councillor Montling, yes.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic too that so many ministers and assistant ministers have attended the region like recently, and so many councillors got the opportunity to meet with them. For years that aren't aware, Ross Bartley and myself had tea with the Deputy Premier up in Killarney, and it was a great opportunity to advocate for our area. So, thank you.
Councillor Montling.
I'd just like to add, with the visit that we had from Assistant Minister Trevor Watts, I was able to spend some time with him and on-site visits to the water treatment plant and the sewage treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant. And I just want to commend our staff that were in attendance that day on a job well done to them, because it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes for our staff to be put in that position, but the staff that were there that day led really, really well, and I really commend them on what a great job they did that day.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12.1. We have a recommendation that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Are we happy to go to a vote on that one, councillors? Yep, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 13.1, the Corporate Services Reports. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the Financial Performance Report as at 30 September 2025. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Any questions or discussion? Yes, Councillor Montling.
Yeah, I might be reading it wrong, but the report says that utility income is down 174,000, but the table shows 564.
Through you, Mayor, can I ask the General Manager of Corporate Services?
Can I ask which page you're looking at there?
I can give you a copy of it. It's so 13.1, as you know, is it? But it's probably easier for me to give you a copy of it. I'll print it out. Yeah, just tell me.
Page 24.
Alright, thank you.
Come on, I'll just check.
I think I'm going to need to take that one on notice, councillor.
Oh, that's all right. I just noticed it last night.
Yes.
Actually, I can, through you, Mayor, if you don't mind, I suggest that perhaps the wording of the first bullet point could have been explained a little bit more. It does say there that the utility rates and charges as a budget line is $174,000 below due to a reduction of the water usage. So water only forms one part of that total utilities charges line. There'll be other items within that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 13.2. We have a recommendation that Council note the first quarter update of the 2025-26 operational plan. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wendell, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. Opening that up for discussion. Does any councillor want to speak to that item,
Just
councillor
one
Wong?
question. Can I explain what it says on track and ongoing? What the difference is between the two?
Through you, Mayor. It's a technical project management term where if there are a number of milestones that need to be met within the quarter, then it is an ongoing project. If the number of those milestones have actually been met during that quarter, then it's on track for progression.
Thank you. I'd like to speak to this report today. At the election in March 2024, there was a clear message to us as elected members that people wanted change. And they talked specifically about the culture at council, both for staff and elected members, and the fact that council needed a fundamental shift in how it dealt with residents and investors. A close reading of this quarterly operational report and the report of the chair of the Audit and Risk Management Committee in item 13.3 will show the significant steps that have been taken in fixing the culture and being a council that puts customers first and gets things done. Of particular note is the work on a business improvement framework and process improvements in planning which have already been implemented, with more to come. Developing service catalogues with service levels and targets will form a commitment from council to residents on the service levels that they can expect and a clear benchmark against which we can measure performance. Throughout the report, there are strategies and plans being developed on issues where our community has asked and where we will be delivering, including a tourism strategy, more community engagement, and waste reduction and recycling, including in the agricultural sector. Some of the new staff arrivals show the focus of this council on strategic matters. The manager ICT will allow us to use our IT systems to their full potential and to focus on cyber security resilience. Having a Director of Strategy, Growth and Stakeholder Engagement shows the importance of advocacy and economic development to a council that is looking towards the future. Contrary to some comments, we had 3 general manager positions in the previous term and we still have 3 positions now. We also have 2 executive assistants for the CEO, Mayor and councillors, and this too remains unchanged. The Advocacy Officer is a separate position and is not an administrative assistant. The CEO is looking to create an environment that supports innovation and which nurtures and supports our staff to build their leadership skills and feel confident that they can speak up and be listened to. I can see that change happening around me, and it was one of the principal reasons I stood in the election, and I look forward to being a part of this transformation. That all of this has been done in an environment where we are still filling vacancies speaks volumes of the effort and the commitment of our CEO, our senior management team and our staff. And that it has been achieved within budget, with staff costs and operational expenditure $600,000 under budget, is something that should be applauded. Thank you. Okay, moving to a vote on that. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, item 13.3. We have the minutes of the Audit and Risk Management Committee and a recommendation that Council receive the minutes from the Audit and Risk Management Committee meeting held on 18 September 2025 and the Chairperson report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Wantling, thank you. Opening that up, does anyone want to speak to that motion? Councillor Wantling, yep.
Some internal tasks have been pushed back to February 26, including cyber security and fraud training. Does this delay pose any risk? I've just noticed that Noosa Council recently admitted it lost $1.9 million in a major cyber fraud incident which was investigated by Federal Police and Interpol, with the council having been targeted by international criminal gangs.
Through you, Mayor. Our ongoing cyber security training. Our cyber security training is ongoing, and we update it as per the new software patches come out.
Okay.
I just want to thank Kerry for the report. I think she has done an outstanding job of summarising the meeting.
Thank you, councillor Rectors. Okay, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 15.1. This is the first of our planning matters today in relation to the realignment of boundaries at 11412 Cunningham Highway and Freestone Road, Clintonvale. Councillors, we have a recommendation that council approve the change representations made in relation to the application for a realignment of boundaries, 2 lots into 2 lots on land at 11412 Cunningham Highway and Freestone Road, Clintonvale, described as Lot 1 ML2118 and Lot 2 ML477, and conditions 2 and 3 of approval be amended as follows, and you can see those amended conditions on the screen. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Rectors, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Okay, Councillor Rectors, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Okay, does anyone want to speak for or against that motion? Yes, Councillor Bartley.
More a concern, Madam Mayor, that probably we put some conditions in place originally to protect the rural activity that occurs in close proximity to this proposed change. And I think they were sensible in a lot of ways. I can see the changes, some of them are okay, but one thing I am concerned about is the weakening of the condition that we will allow or not uphold that covenant for at least 150 metres from the southern side, the boundary on the southern side, down Freestone Road for at least 150 metres, because it directly is opposite what will be, I believe, an intensive dairy farm. And I think it's our opportunity to put conditions in place to avoid conflict of industry, because as much as we can only assume and make an assumption, they may end up residential. It's a big assumption to make, and we shouldn't make assumptions in planning. It should be dealt with. In fact, these things do happen. So whether we can deal with it later on when building approvals are issued, that remains to be seen, but probably not. So we probably only get one chance at this to get it right, so we don't impact on existing industry.
Are you suggesting an amendment motion at all, Councillor Bartley?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor, that at least for 150 metres from the southern boundary along the eastern, that 60 metre covenant remain.
So the amendment is to condition 3. Your amendment motion, Councillor Bartley, is that in relation to condition 3?
Correct.
And you're suggesting the wording, is it simply changing the 60 metres?
Is to retain a 60 metre covenant from the eastern, along the eastern boundary up from the southern boundary.
I'm sorry, now I'm confused.
No, I'm confused, Councillor Bartley, because we have a 60 metre.
60 there, you want it 150, is that right?
Do you want to change from 60 to 150, or what's the amendment?
It's 150 in length, but 60 wide. 60's there, but we need 150 metres long to retain that 60 and not dilute it and remove the 60 any further up that hill.
So
I know we should have done a site visit. There was no.
The covenant already goes across the southern boundary and up the eastern boundary.
Councillor Rectors,
Can we
just a minute. We just want the wording from Councillor Bartley first before we start debate.
Is that intent?
From the southern boundary along the eastern boundary. That is where I'm suggesting it's exactly there that we need 150 metres. If we had the map up, Madam Mayor, it might be more explanatory, easier to explain.
Is that the correct wording, Councillor Bartley?
Yeah, well that is it. It's from the southern boundary along the eastern boundary, and that's the intersection of those boundaries.
So condition 2 talks about the covenant area and condition 3 talks about the length of fencing.
Yes.
So I'm just,
I think you'd have to change both, you can't just change one.
Councillor Barnes. Yeah, create the words.
60 metres is there, but it definitely meets, it says for internal driveways, it definitely needs to, no activity in that 60 metre area for 150 metres from that southern and eastern boundary, where that southern boundary joins onto Freestone Road and runs the eastern section, where basically the neighbour's property moves his cattle out to. I think we've all had an explanation on this. But to get
I
it
think
exactly into planning terminology is going to be a bit interesting.
I think we'll need a seconder for the amendment motion, Councillor Bartley, for Councillor Wantley, thank you. Okay, and I think Councillor Bartley has spoken to that. Does anyone want to speak against that amendment motion?
I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Just for the purposes of clarity, I won't support the amendment because I'm happy with how it is. I think we've already gone above and beyond what we're needed to do in a planning sense for the covenant area, and I think the 60 metres along the southern boundary, which includes the 60 metres up the eastern boundary, is more than sufficient.
Okay. Shall we go to, oh, yes.
I will support the motion because I think it's really just clarifying that it's not just a 60 metre width, it's actually for the length of 150 metres as well. So I think it's just the inclusion of that 150 metre length to make it clear that that's what it is. So I'm happy to support that.
I might ask a question actually at this point. We have the Acting General Manager, Curry, on Teams actually, if anyone does want to ask questions. But if I could ask a question to the General Manager. So with the 60 metre covenant, would the current drafting of fencing for 60 metres completely fence in the covenant area?
Thank you, Mayor Melissa. No, the intention was for the covenants to be, the intention of the condition as currently drafted is for the covenants to be 60 metres wide. The length of that along Freestone Road, if I understand the motion correctly, is to now change that to being 150 metres long along the frontage of Freestone Road, but still a covenant that is 60 metres wide. Have I got that correct?
Yes.
So if I can just defer to Ange, we'll have that wording in front of her.
Through you, Mayor Melissa, so the condition's currently worded to require fencing along the southern boundary and then for the 60 metres along the Freestone Road frontage for the width of the covenant, but that would need to be amended if councils decide to do a different resolution.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Does anyone else want to speak to that amendment motion? No. Okay. So going to a vote on the amendment motion. Those in favour? Councillors Windle, Bartley, Wantling, Kitchen and Dean. Those against? Councillors Richters, Haslett and Hamilton. So that amendment is passed. Going back then to the motion as amended, are the movers and seconders of that motion, who did we have? We had Councillor Richters and Councillor Pigeon. Are you happy with that?
No, the
Oh, the
amendment
original.
is Councillor Bartley.
No, but that's passed, so we're going back to
The original was
the original.
Councillor Pigeon.
Yeah, so,
No, Mayor, I won't because I won't support that.
okay, do we have a mover for the motion as amended now? Councillor Bartley, are you happy to move that? Councillor Pigeon, are you happy to stay as seconder? Okay. Councillor Bartley, do you want to speak to that amended
No, I
motion?
think we've well and truly discussed this and had a lot of good information provided from both parties. And I'm hopeful that it comes to a sensible outcome.
Okay. Do we have anyone who wants to speak against the motion? I'll just check whether planning is happy with it. I might, while they finalise some wording, I think Councillor Bartley said he doesn't need to speak again. Does anyone else want to speak against the motion?
I do. I just want to say thank you to the planning staff who spent so much time working with both parties on this. It wasn't an easy task, but the work that was put into this was just noted. That's all I just wanted to mention.
Thanks, Councillor Pigeon. I might speak against the amended motion in that my view was that we were in the very difficult position of balancing productive farmland and farming enterprises with the legal right that people have to build on their properties, including farmers being able to build. It's a very difficult balance, as many of us around this table talk about often. It's often not possible to find common ground that is acceptable to both parties, and we've been faced with that here. I was satisfied with the recommendation from the planning team that it represented a good balance between the rights and concerns of both sides, and I was happy to follow the recommendations of our planning staff in that respect. Councillors, we're just in readings.
Mayor, I might just also make a comment. I think that we went above and beyond in this planning application. There was no requirement for us to consider this covenant as part of standard conditions. We added that because we thought it was a nice thing to do to try and protect the interests of the farming land between the two locations. Requiring now at the last minute for us to extend this 150 metres down Freestone Road is going to be a massive imposition to the owner of that property and not reasonable in my opinion. And I think that when you look at the map, as I just have done, and drew out 150 metres down Freestone Road, that will significantly impact on the ability for that land to be now cultivated. And I was happy with the 60 metres before because I thought we struck a balance. But 150 metres is not a balance. 150 metres is excessive, and I won't be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, I think the wording, the amended wording, is on the screen there. That reflects that amendment motion. I'll just get you all to have a look at that. Sorry, I thought the amendment motion was the 150 metres of fencing, but a 60 metre covenant is. Marion, is the amendment wording?
So here,
Had. Yeah, that's.
So is it, just to use a free amendment, so it's just 60 metre width of the covenant, no covenant along the rest of the Freestone Road frontage, is that?
So.
We've got it in here, the changes are quite easy. It says here, statutory covenant to prohibit the construction of buildings for residential use to be provided along lot 6 along the full length of the southern boundary and eastern boundary. The covenant, this is the bit that was taken out, the covenant is also to restrict the construction of any internal driveway access from Freestone Road within the covenant area. And I think that's where the 150.
Could we see the wording of the amendment motion?
So we're taking that one out.
No, the two line.
That's what we're taking out. We need that in there, that driveway restriction in there for 150 metres down Freestone Road.
Yeah. Okay, can we look at the amended. Councillor Bartley, what's the wording that reflects your amendment motion?
So the covenant is also to restrict the construction of any internal driveway access from Freestone Road within the covenant area for 150 metres from, and that's what we need, it's within the 150 metre.
Can I just, if you don't mind, Councillor, just ask the question, so that within an area of 150 metres, that's currently in red, so you.
Within a length, not an
On
area.
here, please.
Length.
Can we need to have the wording on the screen? So within the area that's in red, an area of 150 metres, is that where you're reading from?
No, it just says, covenants also restrict construction of internal driveway access from Freestone Road within the covenant area. And it should say the length of 150 metres after that. And basically you can build driveway down the rest of that eastern boundary, no worries at all. But for 150 metres from the southern boundary, that should be prohibited from building any internal driveway or access off the Freestone Road.
Okay, so if you can just double check that wording's what you're looking for.
I have a question for Councillor Bartley, because what you're reading off your screen there also includes the covenant area having the full length of Freestone Road.
No, if we only put 150 metres there, then you can build a driveway for the rest of it if you wish.
No, building a house.
I'm not talking about building houses because that's an assumption. No
Yeah.
one's building a house. As far as we know, this could stay agricultural land.
Councillors, we've debated the motion, you've spoken, I've spoken, Councillor Bartley has spoken. We are just confirming Councillor Bartley's wording for the amended motion.
That's correct.
So through memo, so we're taking out that 150 metres for the covenant, and all we're doing is restricting access for 150 metres along Freestone Road.
Just that 150 metres restricting the access,
There'll be no
driveway access.
Yes, Councillor Bartley just said just the driveway access, so you're not extending the covenant area.
Does that include the fencing, Mayor?
That's a question to answer.
Let's just wait.
Not even worried about the fencing.
Councillor Bartley, were you saying that was a length of 150 metres rather than an area of 150
It's
metres?
a length of 150 metres. Yeah, it's-
Okay, so that's condition 2 and condition 3 says. Okay, so is that wording, does that reflect
That's
your
correct,
amendment,
ma'am.
Councillor Bartley?
That's the intent.
Okay. Moving to a vote on that, those in favour? Councillors Windle, Bartley, Watling, Pigeon and Dean, and those against, Councillors Huslett, Richters and Hamilton. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 15.2 in relation to Duke Road, Mount Tully. We have a recommendation that the change representations made in relation to the application for a material change of use for the purpose of short-term accommodation, 3 buildings up to 16 guests on land at 10 Duker Road, Mount Tully, described as Lot 10, SP 145282, be refused for the following reasons, and amend condition 24 as follows. And you can see the wording on the screen, councillors. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Windle, thank you. Okay. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Haslett?
Briefly, yes, thank you, Mayor. It's a tricky one, this one, because it does feel like perhaps splitting hairs. However, we have our rules in place for a reason, and I think that we should stick with them. That's usually my line with these things, and I'm going to stick with that too.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Ignoring your plea then, I'm actually going to suggest a amendment motion on this one. That we add in condition 24 a second, there's currently one alternative, I'm suggesting a second alternative, that alternatively the gully between the existing sealed section and the site entrance is to be improved to a stabilised road pavement with associated low flow drainage treatment, or so I'm moving that amendment motion. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Pitchin, thank you.
So the applicant has to do that? Works?
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, can you explain that?
Yes, so if you, for those, I actually came past here the other day. In the unsealed section, it comes down to a gully where there is occasional water flow across the road, and I think that's probably going to be the area of that section that is impacted the most by traffic and wet conditions, and perhaps degrading that gully and road for other users. And so I'm suggesting that across the gully that they do a stabilised road pavement of a form acceptable to council, with some drainage, some very low flow drainage treatment there just to stabilise the gully crossing. This was a difficult one, as Councillor Haslett said. My opinion was that the requirement in this case was overly onerous and would add to council's maintenance costs and depreciation for very little benefit to ratepayers. But I did think that that there was a chance that the additional traffic would cause problems in the gully area, and hence why I'm suggesting that amendment motion. Councillor Dean.
Can I just confirm? So your amendment, is that also adding in that portion of road to be sealed as well?
No, so it's an alternative. They can either seal up to the driveway, or they can do the gully works, or they can change the access to Mount Tully Road at the applicant's choice.
So when you say stabilised road, are we talking about effectively building a causeway?
Effectively, yes. I could ask through the CEO, yeah, yes.
There's all sorts of causeways. What stipulation are we putting on that to make that causeway? Is it, it's box culverts? Is it? There's a lot of different regulations on a causeway.
It would have to meet with council's engineering standards.
Yeah. So the motion you're putting forward, we have no standard. It could be any standard. Like, I know what you're saying, but we're flying blind by what you're saying on what regulation we're putting on.
Madam Mayor, once upon a time we'd use a clause to the satisfaction of the General Manager of Engineering. There was one clause we used to use. I don't know whether you can still use that. I take advice from the CEO, because how else do we set out what we want?
Thank you so much, councillors Watling and Bartley, for your questions. Very sensible questions. I could suggest to the chamber that you may want to include wording into the amended motion along the lines of to council's engineering standards.
Still,
And that way the engineering team would work with the applicant to ensure that it's fit for purpose for that type of road and for the potential flow that we would see there.
Yep, I'd be happy with adding that wording in to the alternate, to the amendment motion.
To be able to do this, wouldn't like an operational works or public works approval be required?
I'll take that on notice.
Because I'd imagine it would be, and if that was the case, then council would have the opportunity at that point in time to determine to what standard it's built and.
You have another question?
Yeah, just we're still flying a little bit blind because so do they bitumen, as we've noticed, the bitumen's all busted up to that floodway. So do they repair the bitumen as well? You know what I mean? We've still got a lot of unanswered questions to this. We're just doing that culvert, we're doing that floodway.
What's the question, councillor?
Well, do they repair the bitumen coming up to the floodway? You know, because it's all broken, it's all busted up and lifted to that floodway. So are they going to do that bit as well? You said they'll either do the bitumen to their property or they'll do the floodway. They'll redo that. But the problem is the floodway, the bitumen before the floodway is all busted up. So what standard have they got to do to that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, thank you, Councillor Watling, for the question. As I mentioned previously, Council has a set of standards and processes in place, as Councillor Richard has briefly touched on. So before any approval for works would occur, the relevant parties would have to meet with our engineering team and discuss what type of treatment is specific for that particular type of road, the water drainage flows and also the potential usage. And then that would be discussed what the standards are that would need to be met.
Did someone second your motion before me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Sorry, I missed that.
Yes, and Marion, we were moving that to council's engineering standards into the yellow wording before the or. Okay. All those in, we'll vote on the amendment motion, then we'll go back to the motion. So those in favour of the amendment? Councillors Dean, Haslett, Pigeon, Richters, Windle and Hamilton, and those against? Councillors Watling and Bartley. Okay, going back to the motion as amended. Marion, who did we have on that one? Haslett and Windle, are you happy to remain moving?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. It's an extra option for them, so I think it's.
Okay, does anyone want to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Watling?
Can I just, look, I've got to, I thank the staff for all the work they've done. Well, we're asking the applicant to seal a section of road when, not necessarily, but if we do, we can't maintain some of the networks you already have. We've sealed roads across the region that are breaking up potholes and we're constantly chasing the limited budget. Adding another sealed section might look good on paper, but it just adds to the maintenance burden for further ratepayers. If you look at the photo, it shows the existing road breaking up, the potholes and patches down in the photos. It shows a floodway which often has water flowing over it. If we bitumen to the floodway, we could create another problem with water causing the bitumen to lift. It is easier and cheaper to repair gravel than bitumen. Another issue I have is that the report references 42 vehicles movements per day, but there is no site-specific traffic assessment. And the applicant has argued that the real figure is close to 4 to 8 trips basically equivalent to existing rural operations. I'd like to understand how the 42 figures was arrived at and whether it truly reflects the likely impact of 16 guests at a rural accommodation site. Can I just flag that there is a drafting issue on the wording on condition 22 as well? The sentence ends with "and." Also, for me, this comes down to a common sense and consistency. This is small rural tourism use requiring sealing in this context is out of step with the reality of our road maintenance program. This requirement is extremely concerning to me as a councillor. I feel we are chasing away development and tourism operators by placing this type of regulation upon them. As we are all aware, if we use a Mount Tully recommendation, it will need to have an approved vehicle crossover. The submitter will have to form a new road and either a bridge or a floodway over the creek. We seem to be going from one extremity to the other. That's why I'll be voting against this recommendation.
Thank you, councillor Wantling. I think you were. Yeah, I think that's the hand that is being referred to. Yes, I think the reasons that you've set out is why I moved the amendment motion, in fact, so it's interesting that we had similar.
I just feel that with your amended motion, I'm sorry, we're not covering, there's a lot more to it than just putting that in there.
Anyone else want to speak?
Yeah, I think, I didn't agree with maintaining conditions 19 and 24. I think that this is a great opportunity to extend rural tourism, and I think that people who are going to this type of rural tourism experience expects to be driving along dirt roads. I think it adds to the ambience of what it is that the applicant is trying to achieve here. Also, as Councillor Walling also touched on, I don't believe we need more infrastructure that our council then needs to maintain. I think that sealing this section of road as what was originally proposed would just mean that we're back there filling up potholes and fixing it into the future. I also think, Mayor, whilst I probably have changed my opinion and because of your amendment, I probably am more inclined to support the resolution now because it's I guess a reasonable compromise. But I also want to put on the record that I strongly feel that even if we put a causeway through that area, we'll be back there in 2 years' time as councillors, ratepayers, fixing it because invariably from my experience, causeways on that type of roadway just don't last. So I think that we need to be conscious of what we're requiring our developers to do when they don't necessarily meet the acceptable outcomes. I think we need to be ready to look at the overall strategic intent of what people are trying to do, which is where I would have been heading with this, but I suppose I think now my position is I'll probably support it.
Thank you, councillor Richters.
I don't have the right to reply.
Does anyone else want to speak before we go to right of reply? No, councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Several people have now spoken about the future maintenance for council on this. I mean, you can just have to look at the pictures in the report, and Councillor Wantling's spoken about the bitumen that's busted up there at the end of the bitumen anyway. That is going to only be exacerbated by more vehicles driving across it. That to me is the issue, and that to me is why we need to stick with the planning regulations that we have. I am pleased to see an extra option for them in terms of they've now got 3 different options that they can, proceed with their development in. Now that's very reasonable, I think. I think this is a very reasonable report to approve today because we're giving them plenty of options of things that they can achieve. But for the reasons that you've given to not do this is exactly why we need to do this. It's already busted up there. You put more traffic across it, it's going to get worse.
Sorry, Councillor Bartley, that was the right of reply. We'll move to a vote. All in favour? We have Councillors Dean, Haslett, Pigeon, Richters, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Bartley and Wandling. Thank you. Moving on to item 15.3, we had a request. Yes. Thank you. We had a request to defer this item. Can I just check with the CEO, are we happy, staff happy for that to be deferred to November?
Yes.
Yep, so we'll have a procedural motion.
I'll move that we move to the next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Richters, to move that to the November meeting. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillor Richters, could you let Councillor Windle know? Thank you. Moving on to item 15.4, we have had a request on that one as well to defer that item to the November meeting. So if we, someone happy to move a procedural motion to Councillor Bartley, thank you, to defer this item to the November meeting. To the November meeting, yeah. Yep. We have applicant's request, yep. Okay, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 15.5. We have this is the operational works for Palmerin Street advertising device. We have a recommendation that the application for operational works advertising device not ancillary to and associated with a lawful use on the same land, on land at 6109 Palmerin Street, Warwick, described as Lot 6 SP 141542, be refused for the reasons set out below, which are on the screen. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Windle?
Look, Mayor, I think it's all very well outlined in the report. Actually, I've highlighted quite a few things in there that, as I read through, I think that it makes a lot of sense to refuse this. And there's other reasons too that, I mean, over the years since I've been on council, we've looked at the options for the main street as to whether that particular corner there could be made into a scramble crossing rather than the lighting system that we have at the moment. It was looked at some time, a few years back now, weren't able to do it, but maybe it's something that can be looked at in the future. Also, we've also talked about maybe utilising the upstairs sections of a lot of those buildings for accommodation. So there's still a lot of things that we need to iron out and to probably cement into our future planning for the main street, and this is not one of them. So I think, you know, I'm quite happy to support the motion as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Windle. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Councillor Richters?
Yeah, man, I won't be supporting this. I think we are a region that is growing and is progressing towards the future. We were elected because we had a bold vision for the future of our region, and holding us back because of an incidental advertising sign is just ludicrous. We are, you know, you go to any city, any place that is progressing in our region, like Toowoomba, even Gundawindi. Gundawindi has an electric advertising sign down their main street. I think that, you know, holding back progress because of this application is, in my thoughts, insane. You know, the proposal is an electronic advertising device which sits perfectly within the confines of the glass window on the non-heritage listed building in our main street. If there was going to be one spot in our main street which would be ideal for this, it would be that spot. And I think not approving this sends a clear message to our community and to developers that we are not open for business and we are not thinking about the future of our region, and we're very much stuck in the past. And that's not a position that I support and not one that I will be party of. I think that this advertising device is going to come, whether it's now or whether it's in 2050 or maybe even just in the next council, but it's going to come. It's inevitable. And I did an actual walk up down the main street on Thursday last week, and I spoke to people between the Cunningham Club and the Criterion Hotel, and out of probably the 40 odd people I spoke to, I could only find 3 people who thought that this was not a good idea. And only one of those was on a heritage basis, the other 2 had concerns about traffic. So, you know, we're not, by refusing this application, we are not in touch with our community.
Anyone want to speak for? Anyone else? Councillor Dean?
Thank you, Mayor. I will be supporting this recommendation as I don't believe that the advertisement board fits in with the local streetscape and the historical significance of the main street currently upholds. I believe the tourists and residents alike appreciate Palmerin Street for its historical significance and country charm. The development conflicts with the outcomes identified in the draft Southern Downs planning scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Anyone else speaking against? Councillor Hustler?
Thank you, Mayor. This word heritage has been coming up a bit lately in council, and I think it's a really interesting concept, heritage. We've had it with the draft planning scheme, and there's been a lot of feedback around what we do and don't consider and what we should and shouldn't consider to be heritage. For me, I agree with what Councillor Richter said, and I think it's about balance. I do think heritage is important, but I think it's about balance. We're talking about a modern building there already. So in response to what Councillor Dean has said, well, it's already a glass building that we're talking about putting it on. If we were talking about putting it on the town hall, I would think differently, but we're not. So for me, would adding something bright and vibrant to the facade of what is already a bright and vibrant building enhance or detract from the character of that building? Does it enhance or detract from the precinct or for the Southern Downs community? One of the things that I find when I am out and about talking to people is that there are a lot of members of this community that feel that in today's fast-paced world, they struggle to keep abreast of what's happening in the region. Newspapers don't have the circulation that they once did. Social media is not for everyone. So some people have trouble finding out what's on. I think this could be a possible thing to help fill that gap as we move into a modern world, becoming a new channel for local information and sharing and knowing what's what. Unlike the SDRC flags that we have lining the nearby streets, this installation has the capacity to share multiple messages at once, and I think that's really important. In October coming up, we have a weekend shortly that's got about 5 major events across the region all happening on the same weekend. So those flags we have down the main street can't possibly cover that because they stay the same, whereas something like this actually could let the people know all of the different things that are happening all at the same time. So yeah, I believe that we can respect the heritage of Palmerin Street while still allowing modern buildings to feature bright and vibrant elements. Just as we can respect differing opinions without all having to agree, we can respect our past while still making room for a future. Our heritage is important, so I don't want people to think that I don't think heritage is important, but it's also, so is progress. It's important too. Our vibrancy and our prosperity in this region is important. And if we cling too tightly to the past, we risk stifling the very energy that keeps our community alive and forward-looking.
Speaking for, yes, councillor Bartley.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Heritage, yeah, very important. This is a heritage precinct. We've managed to keep the Burns Monument there, and actually, foundations of Burns Monument almost go out to touch that building. That's how big the foundations of that monument are. They encompass the whole section from corner to corner to give the stability, because it's on black soil, believe it or not. But anyhow, we tore down a beautiful sandstone building and built a beautiful glass building. And now the people look back and say, was that a smart move? Probably not. If we had our time over again, it may not have happened. Well, probably wouldn't have happened if we'd been state listed. But we moved ahead. That's modern movements for you, where people want to evolve and conduct better business. So now people have realised their mistakes of the past, but we've got what we've got. So you'll have Burns with a rather interesting sign sitting behind him. Councillor Richter's drew some synergies with the intersection of Margaret and Ruthven Street in Toowoomba, where they have a big sign. Maybe if the Mothers Memorial was still there, and for people who don't know what the Mothers Memorial was, that was the cenotaph of Toowoomba. It was moved to a park. That was a heritage intersection. It lost its heritage the day that monument moved. We still have a monument here. We still have a sandstone post office diagonally across the road from it. And in building the streetscape, we started in 2004, the one thing we were very, very concerned about was keeping the heritage sense and nature of our street. So we sensitively did a streetscape that matched the buildings that were there. We put heritage style street lighting in along the footpaths. We were careful to choose the trees that would match the types of buildings, the colours, everything. So much thought went into that. But I think our reason in our planning scheme to govern the type of advertising that may happen in that precinct was a sensible move. It's what we do to look after what we've got. You don't miss things till they're gone. So if you lose the serenity of the street by bringing bright lights and everything and changing our town to look like other towns because they've got it, is that what we want to be? Do we lose our sense of identity? I think we do. We look like another town. At the moment, we look unique and we need to retain that. So I think in all essence, to retain the heritage overlay over it, over that whole main street, we need to protect what advertising goes in there. And that applies not for only neon signs, it applies for any other stationary signs of any other nature. And I think it's a sensible part we've got in our planning scheme. So I understand why our planners have recommended refusal. I totally support it.
Thank you, councillor Bartley. Anyone else speaking against? You're speaking against the motion, councillor Watling, yeah.
I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but 100 metres up the road, there's one of these on the side of the Stanthorpe Hotel. It's brand specific, but yeah, there's one up there. So it'd actually be contradictory of me to have one up here and then go against one down there in Warwick. And it's probably bigger. As a council, we often talk about wanting to better communicate with residents and visitors. This sign could serve as a tool for council warnings, event promotions and tourism messaging, all in a high visible location. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, councillor Watling. Anyone else speaking for? You spoke at the beginning. Yes, you've got a right of reply. If there's no one else you're against, I'll speak for the motion. I do think we have a bold future, councillor Richter's. I just don't think it always has to be flashing lights. Bold can be different to LED displays, and to me, I believe that the historic main streets should be both protected and enhanced because we do not attract tourists by being the same as a big city on a smaller scale. We attract tourists who want to visit beautiful and charming regional towns, each with their own character. I would like to see more restoration of our streetscape and facades, better lighting along the main street, improved landscaping, and even attracting residential uses back into the upper stories of mixed-use buildings to bring vibrancy back to the centre of town. Those residential uses would be difficult with signs like this because they are not permitted in residential areas where people are trying to sleep. It's about what's recognising what is beautiful and unique about our towns and what gives them a sense of place. I agree with the recommendations from the planning team. I do think there is a place for signs such as these, and they play a useful role. I just don't think that this location is the right one. On one of our central intersections with the much photographed statue of Thomas Burns, I think it would be something that would generate substantial debate within the community. And personally, I wouldn't be willing to consider an approval absent community consultation on a question such as this. So I will be voting in favour of the recommendation today. And Councillor Pigeon, you wanted to speak against?
Yes, please. You actually took my word, balance. Sorry, Councillor Marsley, but I completely agree with both sides of the story. I can see it. However, moving forward, I believe this region, if it had been on a sandstone building, I would have been completely the opposite way. However, the building that it is going on is not a sandstone building. So that was my first thing that sent me down this path. But not only that, is we live in a world now that everything is fast-paced, whether we like it or not. We are instantly looking at our phones for knowledge. There's a whole heap of different things. But I would like to see this go ahead, however, with conditions. And I looked into the actual advertising things. So there's lots of luminous specs that can be changed. So you don't have to have bright advertising signs. There's different levels of lumen capacity there. There's also, I think, real potential for our advertising of tourism in this area, which is something that we're really looking at honing in on. So I think with special conditions, this could be something that could be brought to balance the region moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Pigeon. And right of reply, Councillor Winton.
Sorry, Mayor, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask why the Heritage Overlay Code has been assessed within this development application when 8.2.6.1 of the planning scheme states that the code applies to accessible development on land identified within the overlay and land that is adjacent to the overlay.
Yeah. General Manager, did you hear that question?
I did. Sorry, my internet connection is not the strongest, but I think I did. Through you, Mayor, because the application is an impact accessible application, so therefore the entirety of the scheme applies. But if I can just defer to the manager to see if she wants to add anything to that comment.
Through you, Mayor, I said no, that's effectively the answer.
I'm sorry, can I just get some clarity around what that means? So if it's an impact accessible application, that means we can cherry pick what we want to apply to an application from any part of the planning scheme?
Councillor Richter's. I think the phrase cherry pick is probably.
We'll just, we can randomly apply any part of the scheme.
Yeah.
The entirety of the scheme does apply. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Councillor Windle,
Thank you.
right of reply.
As I said initially, that I read through this, all the way through, and I've highlighted throughout different areas that I think are of significance, but I do believe that everybody has made a lot of comments that I don't need to repeat, but I will just read this out, that while the applicant states that the signage may be used to advertise community events, organisations or council warnings, the primary purpose has been identified for commercial business advertising. So if we want to use it for council warning, we're going to have to go through a process to be able to do that, and it may not suit the applicant at that time for us to be using it for our purpose when it's there primarily for their own purpose. So there's no clear indication that it can be used widely. And the other thing is too that Palmerin Street's a good example of a country town main street. We still do have that outlook there in our main street, even though, as Councillor Barty pointed out, we've already lost some beautiful buildings from that main street. They would have been heritage listed had they not been knocked down at that particular time. It was a real sad outcome. I don't want to see us lose any more of that identity. We would need to be able to retain what we've still got there with that country charm. And I don't think that adding this illuminated signage is the right way forward. And I'm all for progress into the future, but I'm also mindful of us making sure that we have looked at the whole picture holistically for what we want to have for our future look in our main street. And this is not one of them.
Okay, thank you. Going to a vote on that. Those in favour? That's Councillors Dean, Bartley, Windle and Hamilton. Those against? Councillors Hartlett, Pigeon, Wantling and Richters. And I'll use my casting vote to support the recommendation from the planning team and thank them for their work, and that motion is passed. Moving on to confidential business items, we have a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public and move into committee to discuss the following items which are considered confidential in accordance with section 24J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following as indicated: sale of land for overdue rates and charges. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3E of the Local Government Regulation 2012 as it contains information relating to legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government. Grade exemption concession. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3D of the Local Government Regulation 2012 as it contains information relating to rating concessions. Draft planning scheme submission consideration. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3G of the Local Government Regulation 2012 as it contains information relating to negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which a public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interests of the local government. And planning and environment appeal. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3E of the Local Government Regulation 2012 as it contains information relating to legal advice obtained by the local government or legal proceedings involving the local government, including, for example, legal proceedings that may be taken by or against the local government. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wendell, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Huslett. All in favour? Okay, we are out of confidential session and we have an adjournment motion. All in favour? Okay, councillors, we have a declaration of a conflict of interest from councillor Pigeon in relation to item 17.3.
Yes, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest due to a submission in the planning scheme, and I'll be leading the room on this, please.
Okay, thank you, councillor Pigeon. So we'll move a motion to go back into confidential session with the meeting be closed to the public for the reasons set out below. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Winter, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Dean, thank you. All in favour? Councillor Bartley, yep, you know. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We move to item 17.1 and we have a recommendation that council, pursuant to section 142 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, sell the land as described in attachment 1, sale of land for overdue rates list 2025-26, and delegate its power to the Chief Executive Officer to take all further steps under Chapter 4, Part 12, Division 3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to complete the sale of the land or end the sale procedures if appropriate. Moving that, Councillor Bartley, thank you. Seconding, Councillor Windle, thank you. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Item 17.2, we have a recommendation that council allow the rate exemption concession to 1 January 2021 for PID 143610 lease C. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Bartley, thank you. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillor Pigeon is leaving the room. Item 17.3, we have a recommendation that council resolve in line with the recommendations outlined in attachment 1, summary of submission zoning considerations for the draft planning scheme. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. Those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. If we could get Councillor Pigeon. Okay, and item 17.4. We have a recommendation that council resolve to adopt the recommendation detailed in the confidential report of the Manager of Planning and Development dated 15 October 2025, ID item 17.4 from OCM 15 October 2025, MCU 02611, and authorise the Chief Executive Officer to take action to give effect to the adopted recommendation, and that the confidential report of the Manager Planning and Development dated 15 October 2025, ID item 17.4 from OCM 15 October 2025, MCU 02611, is deemed confidential and to be treated as such in accordance with sections 171 and 200 of the Local Government Act 2009, and that the document remain confidential. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Windle, thank you. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. That brings us to the end of our meeting today, and the meeting closes at 10:43 a.m.